Welcome back everyone to the channel. Today's video is something that's been requested many times, and finally the day has come. We're doing the owner's review of the 2020 CLA 45 AMG. I finally reached approximately 10,000 miles in this car, so I thought it would be perfect to do an owner's review because I've had a long time driving this car. I kind of understand the ins and outs of it, and I have a lot of information I can share with this car, and that's the reason why I haven't done it yet, is because I wanted to drive it a little bit more just so you guys can see what it's like to own this car for, a pretty good amount of time. First thing we're going to do is go over the exterior, then go over the interior, and I'll go over some details about the car itself, and then we'll hop inside the car, go for a drive, just so you guys can see what is the driving dynamics of this car, and then wrap it up. So let's jump right in. Let's go over the exterior of this car. So first thing first, with this car, I've gone over plenty of times on this channel. The exterior looks of this car is just amazing and stunning. This is probably the best looking AMG in the lineup under $100,000. I mean, you can see the nice Panamericana grille, the nice intakes down below right there, then the aggressive headlights of hood as well, and you got the lines that all AMGs do, so you know it's a real AMG when it has those hood lines. And just the overall body of the car, the rear could do some work. Just look how good this car looks, and a lot of people actually think it's a GT63 because it looks so good, and I take that as a compliment because, well, I didn't pay $150K for this car. I only paid $72,000, and that's what's so great about this car, is that for $72,000 you get a car that looks like this. Like I said, the rear could use some work, but then you come over to the end and you got this nice aggressive looking rear, so it's not too bad. Overall, the looks on this car, amazing. People are always staring at this car, which is surprising because I got that with my C63. I never expected it with the CLA 45 because, well, it's not a $100,000. It's not like, it's not a coupe. A lot of people love it, and that's what's great about this car. So I think one thing we could do is go over the options for this car so you guys can understand what I have on this car. For right now, I think we should just go over some of the options I have that make this car look really aggressive, so you guys can understand from an owner's perspective what's 100% worth it after 10,000 miles. So one of the most important options on this car is the aero pack. So you get the canards right here, the flicks down, splitter, and then you get the black intakes over here. Then you come around to the end of the car, get that nice wing, a little bit of a high-rise spoiler, then you come down, then you have that aggressive diffuser that I've talked about before. That's more aggressive than a C63's diffuser, and it just looks so good. Overall, this car is amazing. The other thing that this car does have is the AMG specific wheels. So these are the wheels that are on the G63, so you have real AMG wheels, 19s all around. They are on winter tires, so ignore that. Summers are coming very soon. Get that nice multi-spoke AMG wheel that looks like a center lock. Looks so good, and it matches this car perfectly, especially with the satin black wrap. Then with the AMG driver's package, you get the big red calipers on the car, bigger brakes, better performance, and you get race mode. And that's pretty much what it is for the exterior looks. What I think is worth it as an owner. Like I said, those options are 100% worth it after 10,000 miles. I wouldn't change a thing other than getting rid of the light up star. Not a fan of that. I'd rather have the driver's assistance package than that. But that about wraps it up for the exterior. I think we should hop inside. I'll give you kind of a review what I think of the inside of the car after 10,000 miles. So when you hop inside, you're greeted with Mercedes top of the line interior for the base models and the most technologically advanced car other than the new S-Class. You have the new dual screens right there for the infotainment, the updated steering wheel with the little pocket clusters down there, which you can change the car modes and things like that. Then you're greeted with the comfort seats with the Alcantara leather mixture and then some aluminum on the side. Now, I've gone over the interior before on a different video, so we're not going to go too in depth, but we're going to talk about comfort. So previously I said the comfort seats were the worst seats to ever be made in a Mercedes. So after 10,000 miles in this car, recently I figured out that the right position actually makes the comfort seats feel very nice. Not as good as the performance seats. Don't get me wrong, the performance seats are still better, but these seats aren't as bad as I initially thought, which is a good thing because, well, I'm going to be putting a ton more miles in this car. So finding the right position, just take 10 to 15 minutes, and if you find the right position, these comfort seats are fine. Driving out on a road trip, my lower back didn't hurt as much as it previously did, so most important thing, take the time, find the right position, and you'll be good with the comfort seats. Probably the most sought out feature in this car on the interior specifically is the LED lighting, which I hope you can see on the camera right there. Then across the screens right behind it, goes all the way around there, over there. Door pockets down there as well, as you can see the reflection on that plastic bag. Then you also have interior lighting down there, which you can't really see, but the interior lighting is just amazing. And you got the interior lighting on the fans, and they did such a good job with this interior lighting. You can change so many of the colors and customize it to however you want. But with the interior lighting, especially at night, it just gives this car a little bit more of a cozy feeling. Even though it has 2 iPads on the dashboard, it's actually not that bad, and you get used to it very, very quickly. So it's not as bad as people think it would be. But overall, this interior is super comfortable. Long road trips, perfectly fine. Some nice quick trips on some back roads, perfectly fine. I'm in love with this interior. Obviously the quality isn't there. It's not C63 quality. I mean, you still do get some plastic over there, fake leather up here, and then that's obviously pleather as well, but it's not as bad as people would initially think. It does feel pretty premium, but overall the interior has a very nice feeling and really nothing too much to complain about other than the seats not being perfect. But other than that, if the quality was better, I think this interior would be better than any C63. And personally, I like the setup more than the S-Class. It just needs better materials to make it a little bit better. So like I've said in my previous videos, this car is powered by a 2-liter 4-cylinder. You can see right here, hand-built engine. I do have a carbon intake from Speed. If you do have a CLA 45 or A45, I highly recommend getting one of these. Link is in the description. Overall, 2-liter 4-cylinder engine that packs about 400 horsepower now, thanks to the carbon intake. You can see the turbo back there and the kind of like an air intake right here just to feed a little bit more air to the engine to cool it down. But overall, engine bay looks amazing. Performance, amazing. It is a hand-built engine. Thanks to Pascal for making this beautiful, beautiful engine. Performs so good, so much better than I thought. And over here, you do have the AMG strut brace across. Performance on this car is just amazing. With that 4MATIC Plus that this car does have, puts that power down right to all 4 wheels, and you can fly in this car a lot faster than my C63, which was a huge surprise to me when I got into this car. The one thing that I don't like about this engine is the sound. The sound really isn't that good, so we're going to play some clips of me revving this car just so you guys can get an idea of what it sounds like. I don't know. It's a disappointing, but again, I was coming from a C63S V8. Do have to compromise on, a lot of things when you're running on a budget. Otherwise, you can just buy a GT63 and call it a day and you get everything. But when you have a budget, do have to let go of some things. And the one thing was sound for this car, which I'm okay with giving up. But overall, performance, amazing. And you guys will see once we get into the car and start going for a drive, you can see on my reaction how much fun this car is. So one question I do get a lot is, have you had any faults or issues with this car so far? After 10,000 miles, not really. The one thing I did notice when I first got the car was the taillight wasn't seated perfectly, so there was a gap and some water got into it, but they fixed it under warranty. No issue after that. The taillight is fine now. I haven't had really any issues at all so far, and knock on wood, I don't have any going forward. But after 10,000 miles, I can safely say that this car is pretty bulletproof so far. I know some people have had issues with their AC and things like that, but like I said, you get them fixed under warranty. You don't have to complain again. Hopefully you don't get a lemon, but so far it doesn't look like this car is a lemon. Hopefully, knock on wood, so that doesn't happen to me. But this car is performing very, very well in terms of reliability. Another big question that I get for this car is service-wise. Well, after hitting 10,000 miles, that's the first service interval for this car, so it isn't really as frequent as a C63S, like my previous C63. So service A is getting done this week at the end of the week. I'll let you guys know how much that costs in a new video on terms of servicing, but my expected range is about $250 to $300, which after 10,000 miles, that really isn't much money at all, especially for an AMG. It could be cheaper, but I'm just ballparking it based on my C63S expenses, how much this car would cost. But like I said, 10,000 miles, $250 every 10,000 miles really isn't bad at all. I mean, how frequently you're going to be driving this car? If it's your daily, that really isn't too much of a cost to basically sink into servicing this car. And that's pretty much it. Tires, which with these winter tires really isn't that much uneven wear, which is great. My C63S, I needed tires replaced almost all the time, which sucked. With this car, I think tires are going to last a lot longer, so there really isn't too much associated cost with running this car, especially as a daily driver like I am. So I figured this would be a good time to go over some of the issues I have with this car, probably the main issues of owning the CLA 45 2020. The first thing is, like I did with the rev clip, does not sound that great. That's probably the most unfortunate thing about this car, because a lot of the things that go into enjoying a car, sound is one of them. It does have some pops and cracks, which you heard here, and then once we go on for a drive, you'll be able to hear a little bit better the pops and cracks from this car. But overall, not that good of a sound from this car. The other thing that I hate the most, and a lot of people know already, is inside the car. So it's another sound thing, but the sound issue that I have is with the sound system of this car. So I know I've touched base before about the sound system and how much it sucks, but let me tell you, this is the most disappointing sound system I've ever experienced in my life. It's worse than my 2012 Ford Focus, and it just triggers me, so pardon me if I start getting angry. But in this car, such a nice updated interior from Mercedes, $72,000 car, but yet the sound system, even the upgraded one, is just total trash. And I'm not sure what Mercedes is doing. I hope maybe there's a software update or something they can tune it to make it sound better. But let me tell you folks, this sound system is beyond the worst thing I've ever heard. So I think we should hop into the car, go for a drive, so you guys can see what it's like to actually drive this car. Let me tell you, after 10,000 miles, it is so much fun, and you'll see in the next clip once we're inside the car how much fun this car is. It's just, it truly is amazing, and it will blow your mind. Coming from a C63, it didn't have high expectations, but this thing blew my mind when I was driving. I was just like, wow, this is actually just as fun as the C63S. Let's not waste too much time. Let's hop right into the car and go for a drive. All right guys, now that we're in the car, we can start the review of how the driving experience is in the CLA 45 AMG 2020, how it's been for almost 10,000 miles. Give you guys a good gauge of what it's like to really own and drive this car. So first off, we're behind a car, so I can't really floor it, but we're in comfort mode right now. Overall comfort mode, very comfortable suspension setup. I know people are like, oh, it's an AMG, it's set up for the, it's set up to be a race car, but in this case, it's a CLA 45. It's not real, I mean, it's a real AMG, but it's not crazy like the C63S or any other AMG. It's a very good suspension layout. They did a really good job of making this comfortable. And then when you change it to different modes, you can go into Sport Plus, race mode, and that's when the suspension becomes a little bit more stiff, but still overall, very comfortable car. I know that when we were going over the interior, I said the comfort seats are a lot better now that I found the optimal position. Right here, right now is how I am going to be driving moving forward. Very comfortable position, and it's perfect to just, floor this car and have a lot of fun and still be comfortable at all times. In comfort mode, just feels like a really good daily drive. It feels like a normal car. There really isn't it's not too difficult to drive. It's not too, sporadic or too AMG-like, and it's also not too boring. Even in comfort mode, it's still a lot of fun to drive this car, even when you're not in Sport Plus and banging through gears. Now, once we get to a road, I can actually go through some gears. We'll have some fun. I'll show you guys what it's really like to actually experience this car as an AMG rather than as a daily driver. Now we're pulling up on some back roads here. We're gonna have some fun, start actually banging through gears in Sport Plus. So right now we're in comfort mode. I'm gonna switch it into Sport Plus. So right now we're in Sport Plus. I would change it into race mode, but I don't know how many people would actually have the race mode pack. So we're just gonna stick it in Sport Plus. So we're gonna go into manual gear shifting. So drop down to third, drop down to second. I don't know if you can hear that. So we're in second right now, about 4,000 RPM. If we floor it just flies. It feels like I'm in my C63 when I'm going in Sport Plus and banging through gears. It's amazing. And then you can drop a gear. You get that pops, and then you get the intake noise as well. It's a good mixture of noises, but also it's just, on back roads, it's just so much fun. And this is on studded tires too. If it was on summer tires, it would perform a whole lot better. But overall, in Sport Plus mode, it just flies. And like I've said before, that 4MATIC Plus does such a good job of pushing that power out in this car. So much better than a C63S would, or any other AMG that's rear wheel drive. Obviously, having all four wheels going is a lot better to put power down. It feels so much fun. I love it. I can't do launch mode because I don't have summer tires, so we're just gonna do a little bit of a launch ourselves. It goes through the gears instantly, and you just fly. And that's why I love this car so much, because before when we were in comfort mode, it was a great daily driver. And then we go into Sport Plus mode and it's like an actual AMG because of that 2-liter 4-cylinder just has so much power for such a small engine. It's amazing. And I think this is where the car is made to be, is back roads, because it's a little bit more lightweight. That smaller engine rather than a huge V8, you can just fly through the corners more nimble and a lot faster and a lot easier than you would in like a C63S or a GT63. But it just, you really ruin the MPG in this car because you just want to have fun. And I don't know if you can tell from the smile on my face how much fun this car is. I hope I can portray it as well as I can. But if you can, I would go for a test drive in this car just to see how it feels, because it feels so different. Oh, we have a friend over here. We have a deer. So the problem with living in Pennsylvania is that you have to worry about deer. I don't know if the GoPro will pick that up, but go nice and slow, because if there's one deer, there's probably a good chance that there's a few other deer trying to cross. So you definitely want to go as slow as you can so you don't fly through a deer and lose your car. See, that's like 25% throttle, and it's like, see ya. I love this car so much. So as you saw on the back roads in Sport Plus and race mode, this car just flies. It's made for those roads because you have a smaller, lightweight engine that produces a lot of power, almost about 400 horsepower with this cold air intake, and it just goes. And it's just, you know, it's a very good daily driver AMG. I know I've said this a million times, but I can't stress this enough. This car has everything that you want out of a daily driver, but also if you need to pass someone, Sport Plus race mode, you'll pass them on an instant. And like I said, I had almost 70,000 miles in my C63S. And comparing it to this with almost 10,000 miles, the experience of actually driving this off the line and driving this on back roads is almost as good as a C63S. The reason why I won't rank it as, you know, as high or equal to the C63S is because the lack of sounds. You know, it does sound good here and there with some pops and cracks and burbles, but it doesn't have the deep tone of a C63S AMG, which is unfortunate, but that's kind of, you know, well, that's what you get. You have half the engine, so you get half the sound. My C63S just had that deep growl of like an AMG muscle car. The C63S isn't going to have the V8 anymore. It's going to have this engine, which isn't a big issue because I love this engine. It's a great performer, but it lacks that sound. And when you're driving a car, it's a whole experience. There isn't one thing that makes a car fun. You want to have a mixture of all those things to make the experience perfect. And when you have a budget, you can't really get everything you want, right? This car is a budget-friendly AMG. It's $72,000. That's a lot of money. Don't get me wrong. That's a lot of money. But when you're talking AMGs, you know, GT63S, that is the perfect AMG because you get the sound, you get 4MATIC Plus, you get the V8, you get the performance. It is on the little heavier side, so you do have a little bit of a compromise. But like I said, when you're balling on a budget, you can only choose so much what you can get out of a car, and that's why I chose this car out of like the RS3 and the M2, is because I got a lot more of what I actually wanted in the car versus what you would get in those cars. Like the M2 and the RS3 sound better. The M2 is regarded as like one of the best driver's car, but you know, that's not too important to me. And then the RS3 has the best 5-cylinder ever created. Honestly, one of my favorite engines ever, but interior lacking. And see, there's a lot of things that go into owning a car and what you want out of it when you're on a budget, and the CLA 45 was perfect to me. Now that we've gone over the driving dynamics of this car, we can wrap up the review and call it a day. So guys, that about wraps it up for the owner's review after 10,000 miles on the 2020 CLA 45. If you're in the market for a car like this in this price range, you will not regret buying this car. People need to experience this car before they talk crap on it, because a lot of people on, you know, the keyboard warriors comments saying it's a fake AMG, it sucks, probably haven't even driven an AMG at all, let alone the 2020 CLA 45. So if you guys enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel, as there's more CLA 45 content and more car content coming to this channel. Thanks again for the support, and I'll see you guys on the next video.